Hello, it's evening and I got 7.5 volts on my array, but not really. What I have is a battery backup on this system. As you can see, you get totalization on this meter, and sometimes, well actually, most times it'll remember the values from the previous day and keep adding on to them the next day. But every once in a while it'll just go back to zero, and if you're doing weekly totals or monthly totals, it's nice to be able to keep those values. And if it's a self-powered system, it's also nice to be able to, when you come home in the evening or something like that, go and look and see what is on the meter, rather than just having this dead meter and having to wait till the morning. So let me show you this battery backup system I have. It's a simple lithium battery holder with two used lithium cells. Everyone has a few of those lying around, and we all think that we have some kind of project we'll put them in, and we never do. And we keep them until they're dead. But what I do is I connect the negative to the capacitor bank, and the positive I feed through this resistor diode combination, and I also have a sampling resistor to measure the current. The resistor controls the charging current, so when this thing is seeing 60 volts or whatever voltage you have during the day, it's charging up the battery, and in the evening, when it's powering just what's left on the inverter board, as you can see, we got a little red light over there. That's drawing about 0.5 milliamps. The meter itself draws only about 3 milliamps, even with the LED lighting on it. So pretty amazing. That's very low power. So during the day I charge it about 7 milliamps, and in the evening it'll draw like 3.5 milliamps. And I hate auto shut off. So you can see here we have 0.347 volts on that 100 ohm resistor, which turns out to be 3.5 milliamps. That's not a lot. Now sometimes you may want to use, I have this blue wire coming out of here. This meter has been modified. Sometimes you'd like to make measurements with direct connect, and although if you go into direct connect, this power will still be supplied to the meter, the meter itself will think it has 7.45 volts on it, and once you run into direct connect, that's going to short that all out, which you could short out the battery. That's why I have the 100 ohm resistor in there. It provides a little bit of protection. But if we switch over and connect the positive to this blue wire, what we do is we're powering the electronics directly, but the voltage sampling is only on the capacitor bank. Now this will take forever to discharge, and this particular arrangement I have for testing, I can throw direct connect on, and that'll short out the power, short out those big capacitors. As you notice, you saw the 99.9 volts. It's a little error that this meter has. When it gets down to 0 volts, it can switch back and forth from full range to minimum range. But if you just get a few millivolts on it, it'll read normally. And you can see the capacitors recharging, maybe some surface charge, maybe we're getting some moonlight, maybe that's what keeps the memory alive. But this allows you to do some direct connect tests, and it'll keep the meter alive, and you'll be reading exactly what voltage is on the array. So let's go upstairs and I'll show you what's happening. So now we're connected to our spare meter, and this is connected to a power supply. And as you can see, we got you know, 60 some volts on it. And we can look at our meter here, and it says 0.625, which is 6 1/4 milliamps. How this works is I have the two batteries in series. I connect the negative to the negative of the capacitor bank, and we normally connect the positive through this resistor diode combination to the positive of the capacitor bank. You want to always have this 100 ohm resistor there. If these two outputs should short, it'll prevent, you know, a dead short on the battery. This will limit the current, and it's nice to you know, with the 100 ohm, it's easy to see what the charge and discharge current of the battery bank are. So I use about an 8K resistor on this, and as you can see, I have around 6 milliamps charging. So that's the charging current during the day. In the evening, it just passes through this diode. So as we've seen before, we have about, you know, 0.3 volts for the resistor. You get about 0.6 volts from the diode. So you're measuring about, at the meter itself, you know, 7.4 volts. You know, if you ever see it drop down to about 7 volts, you know you're not charging enough, and this value should be lower. It all depends upon what you use for your panel array. But now if you want to power the meter directly, there's a little modification you can make. And this is for those people who are actually skilled with soldering. If you look in the corner here, you have this little diode, and that connects to these resistors and these resistors. So you got a space there where you can solder. You know, if you're a good solderer, it's not much of a problem. If you're not experienced, I wouldn't do this. But connecting a wire there will allow you to power the meter without affecting the sense voltage, because the sense voltage will be isolated by this diode. And if this voltage is higher than this voltage, it won't feed back. But that's how you can do it. It's a very simple modification. I used a couple resistors here to get the right value. I didn't have anything exact. So if you use a 1/2 watt resistor, that's good enough. Stacking a bunch of resistors is fine to get the right value. You know, if you're like me, I grab parts out of the dustbin. Here's the diode. And down here, I had two resistors to make it's a 99.7 ohms. Close enough to 100, gives you a nice reading. So thanks for watching. That's my suggestion.